Festival.
Listen carefully. Do not pretend that you are separate. This is why I commend this woman whom you have visited. Whether or not she is enlightened is not the point. She is at one with existence, and existence is at one with her. In declaring yourself to be enlightened, an alchemy happens. You have expressed it, your absolute willingness to let go, to be at one with existence. And as soon as this willingness is present, multiple boundaries fall away. To declare oneself enlightened takes great courage. It takes great courage because you may be wrong. People may laugh and make fun of you, but let us not trouble ourselves too much with the semantics. To make this announcement, I am going to be absolutely, truly, and authentically myself. This is like an arrow to the core. In this space, tremendous space is created. In this space, all dissolves that is not of your true nature. You have taken the responsibility to cut loose from the countless ways of the aimless personality. The axis is ready for those who want the axe. She has an axe ready to chop. All who are ready to be chopped. All who are stinking ready. Yes, she is ready to do the chopping. It is rare to find a being who is female in the body ready to do the chopping. Usually, it was the man who had the task to do the chopping. Something is changing. The axe wielder of consciousness will have to be this woman. Because no man can wield an axe without creating damage, unless he happens to be the master of the masters. Time is short. This beautiful fragrance is an example of a kind of an imperfect enlightenment. Enlightenment is not perfection. Enlightenment is absolutely daring to be oneself, utterly without compromise. And the truly enlightened person cannot compromise one iota. This is the trouble with you. Elements of compromise remain. Cut them out henceforth.
I'm Maitreya, and I come originally from Norway. I came. We start a little bit on another plane where we talk like this, where it's a little bit more funny and a little bit more childlike. The whole thing started about 2.5 years ago when we were traveling in India. And we were, as many other people, we were trying to find ourselves in many different kinds of directions with healing and so on. And we came to a deep yearning inside of us where we knew we can't go on further alone. We have to have a master who could really show us who that we are, who can really give us a direction. And then we went to Nepal, and we went trekking, and came back from trekking, and went to a bar, and came into this bar, and this bar was somehow magic. Magic. It was a energy around which we never felt before. And we looked over to a table, and there was sitting a woman, Anna Magdalena, in a long silver dress with some people, and she was totally animating, and she was alive, fiery. It was coming songs through her. It was a live theater, and we couldn't think. We just were pulled over there. It felt like we were just pulled over there, and with the question in our head, do you know how you can do astral traveling? That was the thing where somehow my head could ask a question. And she said, no, I don't know anything about astral traveling, but I know how to find yourself and to find inner peace. And Martin at that time could not think anymore. He was just stunned and sat down and couldn't think anymore.
Same day.
We were then in this bar for a long time, and we were sitting together, singing together.
The first day in the bar singing.
Mm-hmm. We were about one person was around, Anna Magdalena, a Buddha, we called him, a Canadian also. And just after that we started the process, the life process together with Anna Magdalena. It was sure for this whole being and this whole person knew from deep in our heart, this is the way. it goes with this woman. I can't think anything more. It just goes down.
But somehow I can't help but you have been living with me 2.5 years, and we speak about this kind of questions. This is a question he would not even ask. You understand? You start creating problems and holding back and making problems where there are really no reason. Why do you not enjoy your full-blown being? You need to be and you need to feel a problem. Otherwise, something is no good.
Es kann keine Probleme mehr schaffen, wenn es fühlt, dass es total ist. We are just saying, through the sound and through the working with the sound, something fundamentally was changed. Learning how to sing again, learning how to be alive, to be spontaneous, to express myself without words, to get away from the words and get into the ba 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 ba, and the tones of the heart, the tones of fun, the tones of heart, not mental, tones of ecstasy. Ecstasy. The tones of the heart. Ecstasy. Ecstasy. The tones of the heart. Ecstasy. 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 Ecstasy.
So how I met?
Yeah.
How
India.
I met Hanali. I'll keep calling her Hanali because that's the name I'm most accustomed to. Hanna Magdalena, Mataji, all these names also belong to her. I went to India because I was at that point in my life where I really felt a need to let go of a lot of things, and in the process of doing that, try to find myself. And I'd already been meditating for some time and whatnot, but I felt like India was where I needed to go for my next step, whatever that was going to be. And there was going to be a teacher there whose books I had read and been quite impressed by, named Andrew Cohen. So I went there basically to meet him and see what would unfold from there. And I met him, and it was really quite impressive for me at the time. And so after I met him, I just rented a room in Rishikesh, and I was pretty much just meditating and doing my practice, and that's what all I was doing at that time for a month or two. And then one day I was at the local restaurant, and there's this lady who was, quite a powerful, charismatic presence in the restaurant, like really loud and flamboyant and really confident, and she would sing, and she'd just be really, really alive. And it drew me because on my journey I've always sort of felt that truth, if I'm going to find it, has two poles. I've always sort of had this intuition that whatever it is that I'm looking for, part of it has to be found within stillness, and hence the meditation practice. The other half I felt like was coming into a full embracing of life and a full power of living, to be fully engaged in the world in 110%. And I felt like that was the part of me that at that time really sort of needed work. Okay. I felt like somehow I'd let go of the world a little bit much, and it was time to come back. And so here I met someone who sort of embodied that aspect, the life part, because she was really, really full power. And so I went and started talking to her, and she had her tarot cards, and she'd pull cards and sort of like read into my soul and almost like tell me all this stuff about myself that I didn't really know anyone could know, almost. It's really quite impressive the way she can do that. And so I started seeing her, I'd sort of see her every day for a few days. I started spending more and more time. And at that time, she was just with one young Indian boy who was kind of her, sort of served her a little bit. And that's sort of how it all began. Everything sort of unfolded from there. Pretty soon drama started to unfold because I was involved with Andrew Cohen. I had met a bunch of his students and disciples, and there's an Andrew Cohen center there in Rishikesh, and that had sort of become my circle for a while. And when they all started seeing that I was hanging out with this crazy lady, they became very concerned and judgmental and whatnot, and they kind of said, "You're making a big mistake, man. Like, you're letting go of something that's really true, and you're going on a big deluded trip." And I said, "Well, I don't think so. I just want to go with this. Like, I'm not going to be afraid. I want to see where it's going to lead. Like, maybe she's not everything she says she is, but hey, like, why not like take this ride and check it out?" And anyways, they weren't into that.
What did she say she was?
Well, she says she's one with existence. She says there's no I there. And so somehow the universe just flows through her and plays her like a puppet. And so it's like she's fully enlightened. She's like the next big thing on this earth as far as consciousness is concerned. Like, she's the next Buddha.
And you felt that as well?
I felt like there was a lot there. I wasn't 100% sure that this was the real thing. And I think that's partly why I eventually left, because I wouldn't see that 100%, because I wasn't sure. I was still waiting and seeing. Sort of holding back a little bit to see. Okay, let's find out. And she knew that I was there. And she seemed okay with it most of the time.
It came to pass that Mother Earth looked on as a multitude of whales beached themselves before her. Outside the cool womb of the ocean, a whale's body temperature will rapidly rise, resulting in death within hours. Mother Earth beseeched one of the whales why it wished to leave this world, to which the whale replied, "We whales are a singing race. we wander the oceans in a state of resonance or attunement with the biotic tone of the earth. The earth creates its own music. We have but to look inside ourselves to recognize its melodies. We sing of life, love, and a mystery that extends beyond words and beyond the ocean's vastness. We sing in tune with the natural frequency of the planet, the natural electromagnetic matrix in which all life forms evolved, and, until recent decades, the dominant tone in which all life took place. As a result of the great cities of man and the industry that sustains them, the Earth's frequency has risen dramatically, overlaying or drowning out the natural pulse of the Earth with an intrusive synthetic throbbing. This electromagnetic pollution poisons our music and lulls the race of man into a rhythmic slumber. Unless the tone of the earth is healed, we whales will leave this world, our songs never to grace the oceans again.
As it comes all, the whole mystery life comes out of the ajna in the center, from the light into all rainbow colors, all the spells in rainbow colors, and the complete background now, it's dark, bluish, violet universe. Yes. Wonderful. Whatever is your focus. Focus is one part. That's using the mind, but you need the emotion to start the engine that you can manifest. Most definitely, it's out.
And there we were. Then we were in Nepal and went to Pokhara and Kathmandu, and we were in Nepal. We met some people, had some confrontations, had some people join the group and then leave the group. One of them in fear, big fear, probably scarred. And yeah, and then we met Shambhava, which is that Maitreya. We met him in Nepal. And we were probably in Nepal, I don't know, a month and a half, 2 months. And we went back to India. And one thing led to another. We met a couple other people when we went back to Rishikesh, and they were with us they were involved in this story for quite a while.
I'm going to back it up to, you said you met some people, they joined and left, and one left in fear.
Yeah. Canadian girl.
Canadian girl.
A nurse from the Northwest Territories. She was hanging out with us for a while. Maybe it was only like 2 weeks, maybe. Somehow Hanali grabbed this girl and scratched her arms with her fingernails, and this freaked her right out. She's like, geez, because this is assault, right? And she's like, I'm so out of here, I want to leave. And she's like, wanted to get out of the door, and Hanali would grab her and like wouldn't let her out the door, and then locked her in. And then she's like getting all claustrophobic and freaking out that she's being locked in with this mad woman in the room. And this sort of drama went on for a little while, and then...
How did that make you feel?
Oh, it's I've had several times that I've been with people and they've had like intense confrontations with her, and usually it tears me up inside to see, because usually it seems like it goes too far or it's going to cause damage. Like there's a point in pushing and challenging people, but there's also a point when you have to know when to back off, and that's the thing she doesn't know. She doesn't have that subtlety. She doesn't know when's enough and when's enough's enough,
And yet you still stayed with her even after witnessing that.
yeah, I did. You know, like it shook me. It shook my confidence in her. There are several things like this of other people too, and which we might come to. And whenever these kind of things would happen, I go through a big period of like questioning, and I'd sort of confront her the next day and be like, listen, like you have to explain what's going on here, because this doesn't seem like enlightenment to me. This seems like, you know, craziness. And then she sort of tried to rationalize it and explain it. And that was sort of when I liked her best, when she was like the wise woman, because I'm kind of a mental sort of person and I want to know the truth. I don't want delusions, and I want someone to explain what's going on. And so she'd play that role, and that was pretty cool. And basically, here's how I sort of dealt with it. Is I was looking to accept the universe in its totality. I was looking to say yes to everything that exists, and to like be open and in love with all that is. And so it seemed like what my job was is if I could like keep letting go every time some aversion to her would come up, if I could just keep dropping it, she keep bringing up like bad sensations and like dislike. If I could let it go and let it go and let it go and still love her and still love her and still see the beauty in her and still see like the brilliance in her all the time, maybe through that it could be a doorway into like, if I can love this most unlovable thing fully, truly, like in my deepest soul, then maybe I can love everything that fully and that truly. So that's kind of how I sort of tried to see how I was playing the game.
And did you feel that occurring?
I suppose on some level, you know, but not fully, because I'd always still react when she was harsh with people. I'd still feel bad. You know, I think that love is already there, and maybe it's become stronger through spending time with her. I don't know. And it's not always there. Like there's lots of things in the world that revolt me, and actually in some ways I think that maybe that ideal I had before was a mistake, because from the cosmic perspective it's true. From the cosmic perspective everything's perfect, because it's all just happening as it is. You know, we are beings, and there's problems, like there's pollution, and there's people hungry, and there's people in pain, and I can't love it. You know, I can sort of like accept it on some deep level and go, yeah, okay, ultimately it's all happening as it should be, but you know, I think we could give up a part of our humanity if we are willing to, or yeah, I don't even know if it's possible or not, but maybe it is.
Nothing.
Thought you were gonna say that.
Absolutely nothing.
You understand my frustration of like trying to
This frustration is exactly the same frustration with,
you know,
which we feel when we look at Sananda and Venus when they are having so beautiful with each other. There is absolutely no difference. It's just a matter of realizing it. You have to go 100%, then you get 100%.
there's no 50%.
There's no. And long it was a physical and a mental 100%, but not the heart 100%. Can you understand it? It was the complete willingness. It was the going for it, whatever it was. Going for every task, doing everything, but not completely integrating it. And that's the miracle which Sananda has done. Taking that responsibility, taking the responsibility of our force, of our energy, and saying, I take responsibility for myself and for my energy, and I go in the direction of love. And I do everything for the case of healing, for the big, what shall we say, awakening. And not following and doing what Hanna Magdalena says, but feeling this Hanna Magdalena in yourself and following this inner, this Maitreya in me.
And then we all went up into the mountains together to the Parvati Valley. And when we were up there, that's where we met Gayan. Hanali and Gayan would be like the two, once they really, especially once he started really like letting go of himself and just like merging his will with hers. He had to give up a lot because he had a strong personality. Now he's given it up, you know. Now he thinks he's obeying his true self within him, but he's interiorized her ego. So he obeys her ego within him now. So he's given up himself, you know. But in giving up yourself, you find a liberation because you let go, and so no wonder it's ecstatic, and that's cool. And if you're ecstatic, you're ecstatic. Hey, there's not much that can be said against it, like you were saying before.
Dann ist er jetzt schon in Spanien. Und dann ist die Nachricht von jetzt vielleicht von Spanien, oder? Ja. Okay.
Da weißt du, ja.
Wenn wir ihn treffen.
Der ist zusammen in Finsternis gerade hier. Das ist der Sonntag.
Ja. Ja, genau. Wenn wir alle in der Station, 6. Dezember, Geburtstag, im Hotel Victoria, weltbestes Hotel.
Ich kann ganz recht, ich mich nicht wundern, wenn die Polizei ist.
Wir haben eins gesungen, weisst, im Parkhotel hier, im Marigold oben. Und der Herr Direktor hat gefunden, dass es störende Gäste und hat gemeint, wir sollen jetzt sofort gehen, sonst holt er Polizei. Der Direktor ist ein Deutscher und der Deutsche hat dann das in Tat umgesetzt, ne? Und der Schweizer Polizist ist dann gekommen und er konnte sich kaum das Lachen. Ja,
Wahrscheinlich noch erinnern. Abbauen, weißt du, just ist da.
Vor mir bist du schön, vor mir hast du kein, vor mir bist du alles in der Welt. Vor mir bist du schön, vor mir hast du kein, vor mir bist du alles in der Welt. Und so. Dann habe ich mit ihm gesungen.
Ja, und jetzt ist es vor, ihr habt schon nicht viel wahr.
Vor allem mit einem absoluten Meister von der Meisterqualität. Absolut sauber. 2,5 Jahre lang geprüft, jeden Tag. Und der absolut widerlichste Kerl, den du dir vorstellen kannst, der macht es auf dem gleichen Grad wie ich. Der total widerlichste Kerl, den du dir vorstellen kannst, wieder Sachen. Das haben wir. Frieden auf Erden. Mach's mit Macht.
Amen.
Haben wir geleistet. Kannst du dir vorstellen, was das für ein Kind ist? Nichts Kaliber.
Ich sehe es nicht.
Sie sieht es nicht, gell? Sie bringt ja im Moment nicht. Sie sieht mich nicht und uns nicht. Und sie glaubt uns auch nicht. Aber es macht nichts, es klingelt dann nachher weiter und hörst es dann aus der Zeit. Und kannst spüren, dass wir wahr sind. Heilig wahr. Ganz heilig. Du hast heilige Leute drinnen jetzt. Warum meinst du, dass sie jetzt aufgestanden ist und aufgestanden?
Das ist der springende Punkt. Was machst du dafür bei deinen Optionen?
Aber jetzt, wir haben uns vorbereitet zum zuerst reine Leute an. Ich will nur reinste Leute vorzeigen an ihren Brüsten, so die wir kennen. Also haben wir zuerst unseren Stall ausputzt. Und wenn wir erscheinen, kommen wir super. Aber wenn wir erscheinen, kommen wir super und sind allmächtig auf dieser Erde. Weil jetzt ist allerhöchste Zeit, weißt du warum? Was bringt's Annelies auf die Palmen, Kali auf die Palmen und der Mutter auf die Palmen, dass sie sagt, jetzt stehe ich aber an, du! Weil die Leute hinter mir haben erstens und zweitens, weil etwas passiert ist auf der Erde. Was bringt dir so auf die Palmen, dass das der Larry da anholt, dass das passieren lässt im Hotel Victoria, dass das Licht kommt, alles, was passiert da? Was ist passiert? Was sind die schlimmsten Nachrichten in den letzten 3 Wochen? Konstant jeden Tag.
Was ist das Schlimmste? Ich höre nicht viele Nachrichten.
Ich erinnere mich an die Nacht auf dem Schiff. An die Warnung auf dem Schiff, wo ich am Sterben war. Das Bild habe ich vor Augen.
Ja, jetzt ist eine Stunde und es ist gut jetzt. Ja.
Mädchen, ich warne dich. Ich warne dich. Und einmal jetzt mal heiligen Ernst.
Das Haus soll in Flammen aufgehen. Ist Licht mit dem Haus. Mit dir lässt mir nichts passen. Du lügst mich nicht an. Ich lasse mich nicht anlügen.
Wunderbar. Ich wünsche euch allen Gottes Segen und dass es euch
Hanna, wir sind Gott. Und wir wünschen dir, dass du verschwindest. Ein solches Schmeiß gehört nicht auf die Erde. Ein Sonnenmissbrauch, wie ihr da betreibt, in meinem Haus hinein, wo für mich gekauft worden ist, das lässt Mutter Erde nicht mehr länger zu. Und die Weltmutter noch weniger. Die verschwindet, sagt Kali. Sollte wie du verschwindet von der Erdoberfläche. Habe gesprochen. Amen. Ciao, ciao, und ich wünsche dir Gottes Segen und Friede. Wir sehen uns im Himmel wieder. Kuckuck, Baba, Dumme Ruhe, die Ruhe, wir spielen. Ja.
Pass auf, dass du jetzt viel siehst, was du selber musst ernten.
Ich muss gar nicht essen, ich lasse ihn verschwinden. Ich weiss, dass wir uns wieder sehen. Ich weiss. Und ein versteinertes Herz. Ja. Komm. Komm.
Langsam.
Hei, 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 hei. Mahaloha! 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 Danke, 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 danke!
Once upon a time, Mataji, while on her morning walk, came across an old sadhu meditating under a tree. In the pursuit of cosmic consciousness, a sadhu must die unto himself, cutting all family ties and renouncing all material attachments. Since time immemorial, Indian society has been organized to support these holy men. The old sadhu had no possessions, save for a short wooden stick, used to fend off India's many rabid dogs. The grain of the wood was beautifully sanded and varnished. from decades of gentle human oils and continuous physical contact. Despite his most strenuous efforts and extreme austerities, the sadhu remained in the mortal world, bound to samsara, the endless cycle of rebirths. Mataji beheld the protective manner in which the mendicant cradled his one remaining possession. She then revealed to the monk the essence of his attachment and why he was prevented from taking the final step towards the ultimate. It was the humble piece of wood that bound him to the mortal world, like the amassed material possessions of a lifetime. The old sadhu felt the truth in her words and surrendered his one remaining possession. With great reverence, Mataji accepted the priceless human artifact and continued on with her morning walk. The sadhu continued on with his search for enlightenment, with the sadness that accompanies the loss of anything one grows accustomed to, but with a revived determination to achieve the highest possible goal, to be at one with existence.
First, you have to film. I'll go there. Also, what's so
I speak of the place where I until now have come to know my true self at the most. That was in Andaman Islands.
Tell me about that.
Mm-hmm.
How long you were there, and
well, we were in Hampi, and we were in a process of dying, you could say. We were in a process saying all the circumstances around are saying no to us. Nobody wants our songs, nobody wants our presence, nobody wants anything from us. And then we found, okay, when that so is, then it's a signal that it's time that we go. Time that we solve ourselves into light. I don't know how to put it different. Anyway, we thought, and with the idea the world is going under, there's nothing more here we can do, but when we have a little bit of time left on the earth, let's celebrate that in the most beautiful place where we can imagine. And Hanna Magdalena had 1,000 Swiss francs in her... Hello?
that's good.
1,000 francs in her pocket and said, these are to be used, let's go somewhere. And then we went to Andaman Islands. They're they're quite close to Indonesia, and it's a tropical, fantastic paradise with so many living beings and so pure, so natural. The complete paradise. Really complete paradise. And there we had a gigantic bungalow, and we were the only one in a big resort. And there we could have live our theater show completely. There, the theater man in this being came out and started many different roles to play. It was we allowed ourselves to express our multidimensionality, where suddenly I'm furious and very angry, or I play a little child and do the little role of, do the same role in different ages, or play the bad man or the woman, or we were there was a restaurant there, and every day we went completely different. We played a different role, and there were a couple of Indians there, and there were no tourists. We could really play our game. We could play sometimes retarded children, or we could be man and woman, or we could sing a song, or...
And no one from Norway watching.
Exactly. Completely free. And in Andaman Islands, after dealing with all fears and dealing with the fact that the world is going under and all the fears that were coming up in relation to that theme, and after dealing with all these fears and getting in contact with this Mongo, this retarded Mongo like this, which has a big heart and no mind, we came also to know Maitreya, the true master, the true being in me. You can imagine Maitreya is about 15 years old. It's very intelligent, feels a lot. You have to remember.
Where did the name come from?
The name comes from Anna Magdalena. It means the companion, the friend, and also compassion. It's the name. And we know Maitreya as pure love, as gigantic heart, and all the love and all the possibility to give and give and give. Flowing. Freedom.
In totality?
In totality, God. God-child. Strong word.
No.
God-child.
And then, so then this mission happened. Gayan has this big old camperized bus in India that he drove over years ago with a bunch of friends. They drove from Europe to India in this big old Mercedes bus. And they paid the taxes and brought it in, never to leave. And it's still in India and it still works. And when we met him, he had his bus, he has his teepee, and he was living out of his bus and doing his trip in India. He lives there, he still sold leatherwork. Anyways, it was parked in Khajuraho, because when they went to Switzerland, they wanted to dump it somewhere for the monsoon and then come back. And so we were all sent on a mission to go to Khajuraho and get the bus and drive it back. And she was going to reunite with us in Goa, or Pune, I forget what the plan was, but probably Goa. And she didn't want to do the big bus trip, or the train trip across India and everything. And so Katie and I went with Gayan and this other guy, Prem, this Indian fellow we met. And then we talked this young Iranian boy into coming. He was going to school, but he really sort of fell in love with Gayan and with myself and with Ronnie, with Katie. And anyway, so he decided he'd go on this adventure with us and see what would happen. And so we traveled on the bus and went to the ashram, where her ashram is, and we hung out there for maybe 10 days. And while we were there, this is when some of the other people from other countries started to come in. An old friend of Gayan's came, tattoo artist. And then Shambhava came back, Maitreya, he came back from Norway at that time. This woman from Italy came, an old friend of Gayan's. And I guess at this point, there's about 10 of us or so.
The one from Israel.
Oh yeah, and this young fellow from Israel, who we met him just before we left India, like a day or so before we left India. We just met him like in the forest. And like he was just like so blown away that he just like came back to India to like see what this whole thing was about. And so we were hanging out at the ashram, swimming, playing energy game, whatever, having a really good time. And then we left, and then we drove across India in this big old bus. And we were really, this was like probably 10 of the most magical days of my life. I've always sort of been searching for community and like togetherness, and you know, in our travels we visited a lot of communes and intentional communities and things like this where people have that kind of an ideal of seeing the beauty and the richness in another, and like sharing those gifts that we all have that are different. And this was really sort of happening on this trip. Like, we drive across, and we'd eat in big dabas, roadside dabas, and every night we just pull the bus into the jungle and like camp out and sleep on the ground, get up the next day, take off, and we were breaking down all the way across India, and like we put a big mattress on the roof of the bus, and we could all like lay on the bus while we were driving down the highway and just like watch the world go by and watch India float by. And everywhere we'd go, like they hadn't seen people like driving through, and there'd be like 100 people swarmed around the entrance of the bus trying to look in the window because it's like a neat thing for them. But every night, like we'd be hanging out and singing around the fire. We'd make a fire in the jungle, and it seemed like people were becoming free in some way. Like people were letting go of fear, and every night the least confident of us would become more confident, and people would be more daring and more charismatic in their own way, and in sharing their gifts and realizing that they were seen and appreciated and loved. And you sort of could feel this melting happening where people were just like letting go of all their fear. And it was really beautiful to see, and it's like this transformation, really high time. Yeah, so then we drove across India. It took about 10 days, and we ended up in Goa. And then a whole other chapter unfolded.
It just sees the situation right now where Gayan Sananda was in complete resistance. It was a very hard moment, tough moment. And Maitreya challenged him in playing an energy game. Energy game is just a game where you see if you are in mind or in center. It's a very excellent game to see, to experience, to be in center. And we were playing this game, and Gayan was completely in mind, and Maitreya was in complete harmony. He was playing and seeing how Gayan was getting more and more angry that Maitreya was so calm. And we were standing in a beautiful, beautiful forest, and Gayan was so angry at one point because he realized he cannot somehow trigger Maitreya into getting away from this godchild. It is so sure. So, in the moment, just here, feeling what's there. And not the mind who tries to create the problem. And it all came out of, well, Mango came out of a complete fear attack. This being was allowed to experience itself in a fear attack where it looked into the mirror and saw itself, and it saw a completely mad person. A person which it does not know, ready for the madhouse, completely mad. and could just see this face and could laugh about it. And after that, being able to laugh about it, the mango in me, the child, shall I say, without limits, but still retarded, came out. And it was the core, somehow, it hit my core.
So Goa. Okay, well we got to Goa and our energy was high. Like we were all so excited, like because we all could feel what was going on. It was really weird too. Like we wouldn't really talk about it so much, but it's like we could feel that there was this transformation happening and people were coming out, like coming out of their shells. And so we got to India. We were all just like in the highest spirits and excited for what was going to come, because now we're going to get together with Hanali again, and she's like a director of energy. Like she's like really powerful person to have in a circle. And ever since I've known Hanali, here's been one of the things. Whenever she'd be really harsh with people and really like cutting them down and whatnot, I'd always be like, geez, why like this? This doesn't seem right to me, like we were talking about before. And she would tell me that in my deepest heart, I'm a child. I'm a 6-year-old child, Hanali. And all that I really want to do is I just want to sit back and enjoy. I just want to sit back and not have to play the ogress anymore and not be the mean Kali kicking people's asses and trying to get them out of their egos. I just want to sit back and enjoy everyone in harmony and togetherness and freedom. And just, the only reason I'm being the ogress sometimes is because it's needed. It's a needed thing right now, and it hurts me to do it, hurts other people to do it. But like at some point, when you guys all like get it and get out of your egos, then it's all gonna flow naturally, and I can just sit back and be loving Hanali and whatnot. And I'm like, cool, that sounds good to me, because I don't like being around ogress so much, but maybe sometimes it's needed. I'll go with that. Maybe sometimes I don't quite even see it in the time. Maybe it seems a little bit much, but maybe I'm not seeing the big picture. Like, I'm not infallible. It might just be my judgment that's off. And so this is her deepest yearning, she tells me. And so cool. So we're at the beach, and guess what? Her deepest yearning had come true in some way. Like, it's the closest that it had ever been, like in the whole time I've been with her. And it had all been when she was gone. And so now she should be able to come and see it and like recognize it and love it and be like, wow, what's happened here? This is so great. But it wasn't like that. It's not how it unfolded. And then, so we'd get together around the fire, and friends would tell friends, and sometimes there'd be 10 of us, sometimes there'd be 15 of us, sometimes there'd be 20 of us. People sort of on the fringes, sort of checking out what's going on here. But everyone thought it was pretty interesting, like there's a lot of growth and a lot of challenging and stuff happening. Sort of falling back into the old pattern where she's sort of the director of the energy. Like, okay, yeah, now you sing or whatever, right? Or you like play this kind of energy to him, like, oh, he's off, so you tell him like what he's doing. And then, so it's kind of liberating for people who are a little introverted, because it forces you to come out. And like it's like, oh well, I might as well just do it, right? Because I'm kind of commanded to. And so it's great for someone who's wanting to come out, to sort of be put on in acting school. It's kind of an acting school in a sense, learning to like lose the inhibitions. And I thought it was cool. Like, I love those evenings. I love the challenges. I'd love to see who's going to get put on the hot seat that night, because it's intense, and you don't get intensity like that in most parts of life. Everyone's too afraid to hurt each other's feelings and whatnot. But she's not. Like, she'll kick your ass. And so this would happen night after night. And then there'd be an interesting thing. The young Iranian boy, Arya, and this young Indian fellow, Devananda, who had been the caretaker of her ashram during the time that she was away from it. If there's a pure representation of bhakti in the world, it's him. Bhakti being like the love of the devotion, like the pure love and devotion kind of energy. Not intellectual, none of this. And just, he'll serve and love because he sees something. And he sees something in Hanali, and so he's been willing to, like, even just be away from her, but just to serve her. Made his life complete. Really simple, but really pure-hearted. More pure-hearted. Like what him and Arya, the little boy and the simple Indian, were the most pure-hearted out of any of us. And the most sensitive to energy, I guess, or to mood, to group feeling. And I didn't really notice necessarily that the high point of the trip had sort of faded off. But both of these guys separately had come up to me and been like, you know, Buddha, you know, I don't like this anymore. Something's wrong, something's different. And it's not the way it used to be on the bus. And I would have been like, well, you know, it's different, but it's still really good. You know, just flow with it and let's see what's going to happen here. And this sort of happened for a few days. And then eventually I saw what they were talking about, but it took a while. They got away before I did.
My question, if you were to be separated from that, you don't have a group.
This group?
Yes.
You must imagine 2.5 years we've so much focused on our unity. So living in sharing everything. And only in our own process, being so unattached from the world. And being able to see the world from a different point of view. Then now going out in the community and being alone, away from that, would be hell.
They stayed. Yeah, I don't know, you know? I mean, obviously they felt the magic on the bus trip as well, but I don't know, initially they had a stronger tie to her.
They gave themselves more fully.
More fully than the rest of us, yeah.
And then we'd ask them afterwards, like, yeah, but what about that on the bus? Because they felt it too, and they're like, yeah.
And then it was sort of a sad thing, you know, I think especially for Guyan, I felt like it was a sad thing, like sort of knowing what we had on the bus, but at the same time saying, you know what, you know, that doesn't matter because she's it, and I have to go with her.
I just felt like I'd learned what I was going to learn from that scene, and it was an amazing scene, and it's too bad I had to end like the way it did, but it did. And like, you know, there's the details of how it all unfolded and whatnot. But when we all did say finally enough's enough, she's like, oh yeah, okay, all you guys, it's like you're possessed or deluded or something. Like, why don't you guys go down to the beach and play anger game? I don't know if you know about anger game, but it's one of her tools. If people are like off in some way, like they're not totally in tune with her, she thinks they have to release anger, some kind of therapy. So you go down and you pretend you're really angry with each other, and you just yell and you rah, and you try to channel that energy to release it. It's sort of a cathartic hypothesis, you know. So we went down to the beach, and we're all so happy. Like, everyone like somehow felt liberated, like a big weight had come off of them. And none of us really knew that a weight was on us. But all of a sudden, like, felt like the whole universe is wide open, and that this was the exact right thing to do. And it was. None of us ended up going back with her. And shortly afterwards, you know, they left for Hampi and Andaman Islands in Switzerland.
And I tell you how this awakened to its own realization. We were on a boat in Turkey, and I hadn't read a book for a long time. And on that boat somebody gave me the book of Vivekananda, Jnana Yoga. And I start reading. And I read there something like, God as you imagine it does not exist. God is in everything your eyes can see. And in this moment, a wow, big explosion. And after a while, I open my eyes, and the glass in front of me was not there anymore. But the whole boat full of sand-like glass. We had a few hours to clean it. That thought, God is in everything, is an energy that is in everything, reminded this system of who it is and let it explode that glass. This is the power that is living here, through and in me. And this is the power that lets, now with this consciousness, that was my awakening with the glass. Now my imagination is big enough, that my trust and strength and experience is big enough that this changes everything to move into this. All is needed is you are with me in tune.
We say we are rememberer. We put an example there, here, on the planet. How true godly beings live. How God interacts with himself. And if people remember that and keep focusing on that, they remember who they are. That was the game that started with Hannah Magdalena. Hannah Magdalena is God, shall we say, godly energy in the human body. No I anymore, it's just pure flow, Mother Nature, like an animal in an art, in a way. No personal thinking, just pure flow. And we allow ourselves to see our godliness in her, so that we can integrate it and liberate ourselves, and so that we again become this example, and we can give it on to the next one, so that this one can become this example, and so this process goes on from hand to hand. I take responsibility for myself and for my energy, and I go in the direction of love. And I do everything for the case of healing, for the big, what shall we say, awakening.
That's it.
Sa Amaye yenusiruma besine